So this time I'm refinishing a coffee table taking the finish off of that veneer with an orbital sander. I wipe it down with some water. You can see where I bit off a piece of the veneer on that edge, unfortunately, so that's something I'm going to have to fix. I like the grain in the mahogany. I used some mineral spirits to clean it and get a really good look at the wood. Mahogany is a beautiful wood with a really nice grain in it. But as you'll see, it definitely wants to be red. Here you can see that the table is all apart. And I love the grain. I think it's pretty. And I'm going to try to keep that grain on the top, so I'm going to use a primer that's clear. It's a Dixie Belle Boss clear primer. My goal was to, I'm using a little bit of 220 grit sanding sponge here because I'm going to fix that veneer. And my plan was to do a whitewash, but as you'll see, the red mahogany is just going to fight me all the way. I don't know what I did with the recording, but when I fixed that veneer, I thought I was recording and it didn't record. But the good thing is you'll see afterwards that you cannot tell where the bite marks were. Now I used a little Dixie Belle mud to fill the bitten primer. I'm adding some water to the wood because, and my brush because the wood is so dry. And Dixie Belle Boss is a water-based primer. But this is a really old piece. I have no idea how old, but it looks old and it actually looks handmade. And that primer goes on really nice with just a little spray of water. It's actually a mist. It's a misting bottle. Here is where I'm making that mix so that I can fix the the spaces where I messed up the veneer. I'm using a little bit of Coffee Bean by Dixie Belle, Muscadine wine, and Colonel mustard, and I'm not going to mix it very thoroughly. The reason is so that I actually want it to have variation when I put the paintbrush down. I used an artist brush, and I wish I did capture it, but it did come out really nice. It looked just like the variation in mahogany. You can see the bottom, the body of the table on the right. I used 2 coats of Dixie Belle Boss in gray. So I'm giving you a look at the tabletop. It's a little dusty, but you can see that those marks disappear. Yep, I didn't put the table together correctly. I put it together upside down. So, and it's going to take me a while to figure out what the heck I did wrong. So as I said, my idea was to put a whitewash of paint mixture on the top so that you could still see the nice grain in the mahogany, but that mahogany is going to fight me every step of the way. This is about a 50-50, half water, half home decor. I think it's an off-white. I didn't like the texture. The color was okay. It was a little bit more yellow than what I was looking for, I think. And of course that didn't help with the mahogany red. Now that paint might be great used at original strength, but when you mix it with water, I don't know, it just had a flaky feel to it, and I didn't like the way it was going on. And you can see that it's lightening, but it's still red. So I switched to a different kind of paint. This is Ivory Tower by Retique. And again, I'm going to mix it about 50-50, but Retique is a really, really, really thick paint. And I think for that reason it has a little bit more adhesion. I love the way the paint goes on this time. But I still don't like the color. I actually ended up doing 4 coats like this, and I ended up waiting longer before wiping it off. And it's starting to look the way I want it to look. I had to fix a few dark spots here. So the top ended up to be quite light, but I love the color. The color was what I was looking for, but I lost a lot of my green. Right here I'm going to do a dry brushing with some darker Dixie Belle paints to bring back some of that personality lost in the mahogany. This is Dixie Belle Gravel Road, which is a dark gray, and Mason Dixon gray, which is lighter. And I'm used 2 different brushes, but I put just a little bit of paint on and then dab it off until the paintbrush is almost dry. And I'm just going back and forth to get some personality. And I did this twice. So the bottom of the table, the body of the table rather, is done in the Retique in Ivory tower. I just use a little light sanding in between coats. It goes on really nice. It has a very nice finish to it. It's a chalk paint, chalk mineral paint. But I have the screws in backwards. I used 2 coats of the Ivory tower. I had an idea that I was going to use some dark wax. My cat doesn't like the sprayer. I had an idea I was going to use some dark wax on those wood details. I wasn't 100% sure what I was going to do. So the inside of this piano bench slash coffee table, I wanted to remain as close to original as I could. I cleaned it with the Dixie Belle White Lightning when I cleaned the rest of it, and here I'm using a little bit of mineral spirits to get the sanding dust off and get a good look at the wood. The finish wasn't too bad on the inside, but it did need to be cleaned up and shined. I sanded it really lightly with the 220 grit sandpaper. Then when I did a restain, I did it with Minwax. And I did wipe it off, but I didn't get it on camera. So here I'm cleaning it up and making sure that each leg is the right height as it should be before I put it back together, except that I'm not putting it together correctly. What ended up happening is I had the bottom screws on the top and the top screws on the bottom. And it did fit together, but it didn't fit together properly. And based on the type of screws that I found, they look to be homemade as well. I love the way the finish came out on the inside. And this is with 2 coats of Modern Masters flat finish clear coat. And I'm trying like heck to get these screws to fit. But they're not going to. When I took it apart, I decided to continue painting the legs, so here I added more details. And I thought I would add stripes to the legs. It's hard not to decorate when I'm doing furniture refinishing, but my client was a man, and I didn't want to add too much pretty. I'm doing stripes with Modern Masters English Brown and Black Pearl, and I also used Dixie Belle's Gravel Road and Mason Dixon Gray. Each stripe here is a different color. This does take a steady hand, but I actually love doing the detail work. I'm using a 300 or so sanding sponge very, very lightly before putting on a total of 4 coats of the Modern Masters flat clear coat. This is coat number 4. And I wanted the tabletop to have as flat a finish as I could possibly get, and Modern Masters was the perfect material to use for that. So I like using a foam roller. It's a dense foam. It happens to be the 4-inch here. And I'm putting on very, very thin coats. And this goes on so beautifully. It just has a beautiful finish. Now, it's not supposed to yellow, so I hope it doesn't. Now I also used that clear coat on the body of the coffee table, but I only did 2 coats because I'm also going to add wax to the body, not to the top. So this time I'm going to put the table together correctly. I cleaned out those screw holes a little better. And I ended up putting, actually cleaning out the holes in the legs as well to make that all go together a little more easily. You know, after so many years, it changes position, maybe from being damp, not really sure, but it went together really well. Sorry about the camera angle. So notice that the bottom of this table is unfinished. I left it unfinished to conserve a part of its originality. And the maker of the table had some identifiers on there. And I really wanted to leave it. I think it's good to honor anything like this if you can. I did add more nails on the bottom because when I noticed it early on, the bottom wasn't fitting very well. So I secured it with some more just flat head nails. And now it fits perfectly together. So these are wing nuts for the top of the screws. And that went together just perfectly. You can see the beautiful finish with the Modern Masters flat coat. And I did end up adding Dixie Belle black wax around the details, just a little bit. I hope you'll leave me a comment or ask a question. Under the video, I'll leave a list of materials that I use too, if you have any question on that. And there's the original. And here's the finished.